Greetings, friends. Today we wanted to talk about, well, love. And how love, when it's chosen over control, it can make all the difference.
So we wanted to talk about choosing love in your life. And I don't mean a romantic partner or the food you love most. I'm talking about every action that we do, bringing conscious awareness to it and making it come from love.
We've been getting to really experiment with this in the realm of child rearing. But what we're going to talk about today applies to really all the relationships in your life and, in a way, all the decisions in your life. In the realm of children, so we can use this as a launching point, it's, for us, there's a constant urge to try to control. You know, as parents, we're given this idea, even though we have no evidence to really prove this out, but we're given this idea that if we don't raise our children in such and such a way, they're going to turn out to be disasters. And sometimes you hear about children that are raised super well and life just does not turn out so well for them. And sometimes you hear about people that, come up abused and with parents that are alcoholics or drug addicts, and they find a resilience and strength from that makes them super strong. So that gives us, I guess, reason to doubt this idea that we have to control everything. But still, that urge to control is so strong. And it just manifests by looking at a child and they're doing something and then trying to use some means to get them to do what you think is going to be the more positive behavior. It sounds really basic, but we keep finding in our own lives that there's another way to do things, and that's what we call love.
Yeah. Choosing to act with love sometimes seems counterintuitive. You think of it as the obvious choice, right? You love your children, or you love your parents or your spouse or whatever, you want to have a good relationship with your friends, and yet you may come down to a point where you realize your actions are actually coming from a desire to control. And that's very understandable. We want to control for all sorts of different reasons. We want to control because we're afraid or nervous or worried, or we're perfectionists like me who think everything has to be done perfectly the first time, and somehow you get that in you and it's hard to let it go. I think sometimes we feel that we have to muscle through something, or that choosing love is giving up and it's not the tough guy approach, or you're just being too soft. And it's interesting to see how control and how our ego minds decide to say, oh, no. Love is not the answer. This is the answer. Think with your brain, do this, studies say, and what your friends are doing is this, and you must act this way.
But oddly, for me, every time I try to control that situation, it seems to exacerbate it in some way. Children do what they want to do.
We can learn a lot from them.
And often, I've found that when I try to control what they want to do, they keep doing it. There's an underlying reason usually that that's happening, and trying to control it creates a resistance that creates pressure back. Now, you've told me again and again, like, if we can use love, wow, something changes. And when I do that, then often that problem that I see as insoluble, that I've tried to control in 30 different ways, just by applying love, which we'll have to explain what we mean by that, because it can be confused with just,
Right.
totally allowing everything in the world,
Right.
then the problem dissipates.
So if we take a closer look at that control, a lot of times when we have control, we have tension. You'll feel it in your body. You'll feel it in your jaw. Like, how's this for familiar? I thought I told you already that you shouldn't put your wet bathing suit on the bed. Right? Haven't I said this 5 times? Or, honey, could you please XYZ? And we begin the tensing up. Okay, so not only is choosing a path of love helpful because it fosters relationships and it often helps to clear up challenges or help us find new solutions for challenges, but choosing love helps us to see where we hold tension and helps us to release the tension so that we have less stress in our lives, which of course equals happier and healthier for everybody.
As we said, we'll be applying this to other things in this video besides just children, but with children, how do we apply love as opposed to control?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because there are times and places where you need to say something or you need to have a certain outcome. However, that can always be approached from a different perspective than control. And I think approaching with love means looking at your expectations and saying, oh, I have this certain expectation that if this happens, it is bad and this will happen. But we're now storytelling. And so a lot of times I think we just become uptight. Perhaps it's a signal that you aren't getting enough time for yourself. There could be many reasons why you're starting to clench on. But it just is, with love, is an unclenching. It's going, sure, go ahead and grab a dandelion straw and drink your milk through it. Go ahead and blow bubbles and, they can burst on the table. It's just some milk. It will clean up. It's all those places where we start to get tense. Even when your child is not falling asleep for the umpteenth time in a row because you haven't told them the story, you're not doing this specific thing, it's a softening. And it doesn't necessarily mean, like you said, giving in to everything that another person wants. It is an empathy and a friendliness that says you are another being on this planet and I do want to help you. And when you come from that place, you start to let go of the grasping and other ideas start to open up, things that you might not have thought of before. And sometimes put yourself in this place. You're scared, you're hungry, you're tired, you're lonely, whatever it might be. And the person that you've come to ask for support is like, don't do this, don't do that, you shouldn't cry. Or you go to them and they say, hey, I'm right here for you, I'm going to be with you, and then we'll figure it out. We will do this. Which sounds more loving, and which sounds more like an avenue that will allow you to work through where you are so you can come through the other side.
Yeah, I feel like there's, our cultural training is to control. And it's a very fear-based and resistance-based reaction. And often when life presents itself to us and it doesn't look the way we want it to look, that's going to be our first reaction. And it's a reaction, it's not a response, it's not thought out, it's just conditioning. And it pushes back with fear and resistance. And you talked about freeing up energy, and that's, that fear is the opposite. It closes us up.
Yeah.
It reduces options. It channels everything usually into one pretty negative, kind of reaction. And so then things don't have the ability to get creative. When we move forward with love, and that means being open-minded, open-hearted, being in listening mode rather than telling mode, then a whole world of energy opens up and creativity. So as this problem presents itself to us, we start to see creative solutions. We start to see all kinds of open doors that we would not even have noticed before because we were so blinded by that fear-based reaction.
And the stories that we tell in our head, because the fear comes in and says, if this happens, well, then that could happen, and that, and pretty soon you're way off on a tangent of something that may never, ever even happen. And in fact, your worry about it is probably far more likely to make it happen than if you just went, okay, start over here. I just think we could do really well to stop, notice. It's that awareness. even if the only thing you do is go, oh, I'm reacting out of fear, I'm controlling, and I'm not coming from love. If you can do that every time, you start to create for yourself this space, bigger and bigger, that allows you to realize, I can make a different choice. And as you go along on something, there is never a wrong time to turn around and choose love. So, open-heartedness. That's oftentimes letting go of our judgments and our stories to look at what's really going on here. Is it so bad if my child drew on the wall, right? Hey, maybe I should grab a pen and draw on the wall too for a little bit, right? Because we can paint it, because the wall is a wall. But a person, that's another creature that we get to be in this world with. That's what this life is meant for. It's all these experiences with other beings, right? And we miss out on that when we start to control, and when everything has to be in this specific box. When are some of the times you have had the most fun? It's probably choosing love, when you decide, oh, let's just go out in the rain. Who cares? You know, I don't mind if I get wet. Do you care? Let's just go. And then you remember that for the rest of your life.
Yeah. We've already deviated from children, so I'll keep going in that direction. Because with forest monks out here, there's really two main places I see this happening. And the one is in martial arts. So martial arts, we have the choice of, when we're doing our circle push-out game, trying to push each other out, it's a practice of balance and agility and strength. There's our natural training, which is just push against the force. But when we blend and we move and we yield, then, wow, suddenly this person that was getting pushed out of the circle all the time before, they start to change up the game, and it becomes more fun for everybody because it's more challenging for everybody. Martial arts over and over gives us this lesson that, especially in learning martial arts, if I'm going to be engaged in control, I want my body to do this very certain thing, this kick, let's say, and do it properly. And just that wanting, that fighting to make it so, it invokes what I call the self-punishment mechanism. We're not loving ourselves, we're busy kind of hating on ourselves and telling ourselves how crappy we are that we can't do this simple kick. And then that takes so much energy out of the actual learning process. When people can step back and they can try the kick and they kind of laugh at themselves and they watch themselves with love, they'll pick up that kick really quick and they'll be able to perform it very powerfully in a much sooner duration than when they are engaged in that self-hatred. Survival situations. Again, it's raining on you, you're trying to get a fire started, you're cold, you're shaking. It's really easy there to get into that kind of, you're resisting, you're disliking the situation.
Right.
Why won't this beep, rain, stop, and everything's wet, and in that energy, you can maybe kind of feel it from me, even though I'm just playing around. That energy is going out, and if we could have an energiometer, we would see it just going out in every direction, when all they need to do is focus down and say, I'm going to try to get this fire started. And in a way, when you love the materials there, you start setting the birch bark and making a little house out of it, a little roof, and you get delicate and loving with things. Wow, again, that's when we see the success. That situation that looks so crappy and so hard can come out way better than we thought.
And I think gratitude helps tremendously in choosing love. Because in that survival situation, or even if it's not a survival situation, but it's extremely uncomfortable, our discomfort is that pushing away, and we want to control. We want to get back to where we have control. But sometimes giving up the control is what gets us the control in the end. It brings us back to ourselves, and it's as though we say, wow, okay, yeah, so it's raining on me. I can hardly get a fire started. I've sprained my ankle. I don't know when anyone's going to find me, and I'm alive. I'm on planet Earth. I have people who love me and who are going to be looking for me. And, 9 times out of 10, there's usually going to be a situation that you could be in that's a lot worse. So at least if you start to foster some gratitude, okay, look, I have some fire materials, I've got a little food in my pack, I've got a good attitude, you can start to cultivate then this place where then you're open-minded and your heart can guide you. And by heart, I mean some of the things that come into our senses that we might not notice. When we're so focused on it must look like this, we miss that incoming stimuli that might have other answers for us.
So let's get practical. How do you switch from control to love? And I think one of the first things is realizing that if you're like most of us, control has been taught to you 1,000 times over. And so in general, when you react to a situation, you can pretty much guess that often it's going to be control-based. And the way to experience that, to feel that, is that you feel that tension. Whenever we're trying to control something, there's going to be a physical correlate, a tension. You might feel it in your throat or in your chest or your stomach, in your jaw.
Right here.
Yeah.
All over.
So that physical feeling, and then a mental feeling of tension. You probably will see it in your breathing. Recognizing that is step one. And then you've developed this awareness of, oh, I've gone into control mode. For me, step two is seeing that, okay, I see that I'm there, and then to try to get a little humorous about it and go, there it is again, right? There's that little controller inside of me that thinks that he knows exactly how to plan out everything in life, and his track record is abysmal. And so, instead of going along on his ride, I'm just going to say, oh, there you are. I'm going to kind of laugh at him a little bit, not in a mean-spirited way, but like, there you are again, poking your head up and trying to control things. Three, for me, is gratitude, is what you said, like coming into a feeling of gratitude and seeing, I'm on that track to control. If it's my child, okay? If it's my spouse, if it's a situation, if it's my boss, to stop and feel gratitude.
Video.
Like, here comes the chicken, and they're coming into the video, and it's pretty cool that we have chickens around here, and especially ones that are so tame and curious.
Leftover dinosaurs.
That takes me out of that resistance mode of, oh, there's a chicken in our video again. Right? And I've just turned it into a positive thing. I've switched to love. Now that chicken isn't bothering me anymore. And the chicken's probably not bothering you. And in fact, it served as an illustrative point in this video and maybe added something to the video. I could not have seen that if I reacted and I went straight into, get this chicken out of here. It does not belong in the video.
So, awareness, noticing that you're there. Hey, if that's all you can do right now, you are a million miles ahead of where you used to be. Just noticing, right? Because when you notice, then you have the ability to make a choice. Yeah?
Yeah.
Not being so serious. This is a huge one, especially for me personally. I've been serious my whole life, sometimes too serious. And so whenever I can be lighthearted, in fact, sometimes if you're in a situation and you realize, oh, okay, you've had the awareness, oh man, I went controlling, I'm a control freak right now. Sometimes it's fun to go, okay, I want to change it up. And then to say, how can I do this in a lighthearted manner? How can I not take things seriously? And then the third, to be grateful. That's wonderful.
Gratitude, I mean, don't mean to keep beating something over the head, but that's kind of a theme, I think, through a lot of our videos. And it's something with the forest monks out here, I'm talking to them all the time about gratitude because it rewires our mind and it really changes the whole way that we perceive the world. And I don't think you can do too much gratitude practice.
No, I think in the end we're talking about a really open heart and about listening to the world, about listening to yourself, listening to others around you, letting that stimuli in that you might not have seen. And this openness is choosing love. Are there going to be hard times where you don't make the right decision for yourself? Certainly. But going back into that state of noticing, of some lightheartedness, of some gratitude, and of simply holding your heart open and saying, I want to choose love, even if you don't know what that is, it will eventually come to you. If you know in your heart that you want to be loving, then just hold that and ask for that and be patient. Patience is tough, but it gets you so many answers. And then the way will become clear eventually.
That's just to re-point out that, the fruit of this is that after that gratitude's applied, you're ideally going to be entering into a state of listening. A state that then, that listening state is filled with creativity. Again, it's going to see those open doors. And so, stepping out of that control, every time you do it, it's like a push-up, right? For your love self.
Yeah,
so,
I like that. Strengthen your love self, right?
Yeah.
We need more of that.
And it doesn't, it's okay to fall into control. We've been taught this really super well. And
it's going to happen. I don't think we're ever going to eradicate it.
No shame, right?
Yeah.
But starting to retrain yourself today, when you find yourself in that control place, go into the love place.
Soften.
Listen.
Invite. Love is soft, inviting, listening, quieter. And remember we talked about that stress? So much less stressful. It's like when the air clears and it feels like the right thing.
Oh, such a weight off. The whinny of a pack horse, unloaded of everything, right? Just a freedom. And in that sense of freedom, all that energy is freed up. And then all these things, these problems, these situations, these things that are coming in at you,
all that tension,
they release, and you start to see that often either they're not the problem you thought they were, or that there's a creative solution right there, just outside the view of fear and control.
And practice. I'm a practicing love chooser. I continue every day, multiple times a day, to say, okay, I'm controlling, so practice. Tell us about your experiences with choosing love, what your thoughts are about control versus openness. We love all the things that you share, and it really helps us to grow, and it helps everybody else who gets to read the comments.
If you might have come here from our other YouTube channel too. Both of these YouTube channels are supported by people like you who become patrons on Patreon, and we would be honored if you would stand with us. There'll be a link at the end of this video, and that's how we're able to keep doing this, and our dream is to be able to do this full time.
It makes a huge difference, not just for us, but for all the people who get to share in this.
Help us get there. Love to you all.
Thank you so much.